the uncanny. Like most people, I've been spending a lot of time at home. In fact, I've been sleeping a lot. So, the other day, I decided to go for a walk. I used the stairs and didn't see anyone as I left the building, but that wasn't unusual. I thought nothing of it. At the time, outside, it was overcast and slightly damp. Still, it was good to get out of the apartment. I didn't see any people around. In fact, I didn't see a single living soul, but there were plenty of cars, as in parked cars, so things seemed normal. I walked up to the boulevard and turned towards the downtown. And right away, I could see there was no traffic. No cars, nothing moving on the roads. And no sound. I was amazed at how silent it was, and I realized I had been unconsciously aware of it all morning when I was lying in bed, staring up at the ceiling. I hadn't heard the usual noises coming from the outside. Everything had been dead quiet. Dead quiet. Dead. I whipped out my phone only to be confronted by a black screen. Was it dead? How was that possible? It had been working a little while ago. I used it to check the damn weather before I went out. In the next block, there was a coffee shop where I used to hang out, so I headed there to see if I could get my phone to work or at least find out if something was going on. But when I pulled on the door, I found it locked. In fact, the interior of the place was completely dark. In my confusion, I even checked the hours of operation and yeah, they were supposed to be open. Directly across the street was a 7-Eleven, which was always busy. But not today. In fact, it too was dark, and even the bums who always hung around outside had disappeared. I had arrived at a busy intersection, but again, no traffic, even though the road was littered with parked cars. I looked up and down the street, which was the main artery through the heart of the city, but again I couldn't see any traffic, and I couldn't see any people. And all I could hear was the sound of the traffic lights changing from red to green, red to green, red to green, that and the bleeping of the pedestrian crossing signal. But there were no pedestrians. And I was suddenly very afraid, mortally afraid. I went back home, trying not to run, not to give way to panic. But in the end, I panicked. I ran up the stairs to my apartment, taking the steps 2 at a time, and burst into my flat. I went immediately to my laptop and logged in. At least I tried to log in. At least this time, I got the little circle icon spinning around and around and around and around, and doing nothing. Eventually, it timed out. I picked up the phone to call my girlfriend. What was her name again? But the line was dead. I didn't even get a dial tone. I turned on the TV. It was dead. I tried the radio. Nothing but static. In desperation, I went across the hall and knocked on Richard's door. No answer. But I knew he worked at home. Should be home. So I knocked again and again until I was pounding on the door, screaming his name. But Richard didn't answer. I started running up and down the hallway, pounding on doors and shrieking at the top of my lungs, but no one answered me. Where the hell was everyone? Surely somebody must be home. I went down to the ground floor, to the caretaker's flat. That guy never leaves the building. But he had today. Where is everybody? Where did they go? I went back to my apartment, went into the bedroom, and lay down on the bed. I couldn't think of anything else to do. I lay there, listening to the silence as I stared up at the ceiling. And after a while, it began to gently rain. It was late afternoon by the time I got up and left my apartment for the second time. The streets remained deserted and empty of traffic. It was raining, but softly, more like a Scotch mist, which added to the overall gloominess. I had no particular destination in mind. I just wanted to find people again. So I headed towards the downtown. Once again, I saw parked cars everywhere, but no people. I even looked in some of the cars, in case the people were inside, lying in back, asleep, or dead. I know my actions made no sense, but the situation itself made no sense. I walked through the canyons of the downtown, past high-rise buildings, usually teeming with office workers. And okay, things had been shut down, but still, there should be people around, lots of them. I even entered the downtown mall, a place I normally wouldn't visit. Again, it was devoid of life, all the businesses locked and dark. I was alone, in a world of shadow and silence and gently falling rain. A few times I yelled out loud, really screamed, to see if anyone might answer. But all I heard was the echo of my own voice. Eventually, I worked my way to the other side of the downtown, to another major road. Where I saw someone, saw a person. They were far away, in the mist, at the very periphery of my vision. A dark figure, all I could see at that distance. I stared hard, so hard I blinked. And in that instant, the figure was much closer. Much, much, much closer. No way it could have covered that ground, moved that fast. And suddenly I became overwhelmed by terror, mortal terror. I no longer wanted to meet this person, even see them up close. I didn't break into a run, but turned and walked away, very fast, as fast as I could walk. I just wanted to go home. Why had I wandered so far away? I took as many shortcuts as I could, cutting through alleys, parking lots, and behind buildings. But it still took me a good 20 minutes to walk home. I kept turning and looking behind me. The dark figure was following me and was always a little closer every time I glanced back. Closer, but I still couldn't see it with any clarity. But every time I caught sight of it, if only for a moment, I was filled with dread. It seemed to be floating. Floating, not walking. I ran upstairs and locked and bolted the door of my apartment. Then I retreated into the bedroom, where I sat on the edge of the bed. I felt, rather than heard, something out in the hallway, something that fumbled at the door and tried to turn the handle. I just shut my eyes. I was paralyzed with fear and collapsed onto my bed. I knew the thing was out there, wanting to come in. But what else could I do? Eventually I slept, and sometime in the night, the oh so quiet night, it must have gone away and left me alone. I awoke to the continuing silence. After a while, I arose. I found myself drawn to the front door, but I hesitated, afraid the dark person might still be lurking in the hallway. But eventually I found the courage to open the door a crack. On the floor, just outside my door, was the local newspaper. Funny, I didn't have a subscription to the paper, but then I saw that a copy had been placed outside the door of each apartment. I took it in. Maybe it could tell me what was going on. But each page was blank. I flipped through, only to find the whole thing was blank. Blank, no words, no headlines, no pictures, no ads. Nothing. Nothing until I reached the obituary page. It featured a single death notice. Mine! Mine! And as I began to read, someone or something knocked on my door. The moral of the story? You can be a king or a street sweeper, but everybody dances with the Grim Reaper. Robert Alton Harris, executed in the gas chamber at San Quentin, April 21st, 1992. If this is your first visit to my channel, please consider subscribing. My name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories and original horror stories featuring such cryptids as the Night Floaters, werewolves, and the Black-Eyed Children. So again, please consider subscribing. Please help me to reach my goal of 2,021 subs in 2021. Till midnight. Cheers. Sorry, fighting a cold today, so I hope this sounds okay. It is what it is.